what was created, and this is from the earliest standards, is something called barcode verification. So you take each of the codes that you print, and you give it a bunch of different categories for us to look at. These are all the same things that we talked about at the beginning in quality. But you give them grades. These grades are standard either for labels. It's a specific standard, the 15415 for data matrix and QR codes, 15416 for linear codes, and 29158 for any direct part mark codes, meaning you have a rough surface or it's a little more lenient because you know that you're probably using a direct part mark reader to read it that has some of those cool lighting options that we looked in the standard about. And then you're going to take these and it's going to be weakest link. So whatever the worst grade that you get on any individual category is going to be the overall grade of the code. And you're going to use this in order to improve process and to stop other people from saying that you weren't doing what you needed to do from the start in the plan. So it can be used both for, process improvement and for regulatory purposes, depending on the industry. And you can see there, even the X or even the 0 codes, something like, one of the microhawk readers, something nice out there that has it that we paid attention, did all those other things to make sure we specified right. We're still going to be able to read that code. But that doesn't mean a person with a handheld reader at a hospital is going to be able to read that code. And that's why there's a big difference in looking at the quality on them. And when we start looking at this and we start talking about those barcodes, if I'm creating a new product and I put a barcode on it, you're actually going to want to look at standards. So there is a way you could set these up to actually be part of the GS1 standards, because the code that I put on the outside of a pallet that's going to go through a logistics facility and read by cameras like where our projector is up there, we're going to want that to be a big code. In this case, big codes are good. And we talked about sometimes they're not, sometimes they're. In that case, the big code is good. But if I was to try to take that same code and say, well, if we go big here, we'll just go big everywhere else, and I try to take one of my handheld readers and read that code, I'm going to have to stand across the room. Like I wouldn't be able to get the hand in hand to read it. And so if you try to do that, that same code is not applicable in the same situations. So there are standards like GS1 that have set up categories for each of these codes so that it's not it worked right now for me, so everybody else should be good, but it says you need to have this size code at least, or you need to be this small for this situation. And they're all defined for the different areas of use of the codes to take it to that next level. And then we have to actually encode the data properly, as you'll see here. So imagine with barcodes that we've had over those other processes where we're looking at, kind of just the internal tracking of a part, and I was to just, let's say we look at addresses. That's the easiest way. So if I told you I live at, 135 456th Street in, city, state, I would know where to go. It's defined. They're in a specific order in order for me to find the house number, the street, city, state, zip. If we put those in any random order, you could easily end up at 456 123rd Street. Or if you look at, the fact that, Europe and the US rate dates differently, sometimes it's obvious. You can't have a 13th month. So I can decode it because that's different. But if it's January 2nd versus February 1st, if it's not labeled, then I don't know which one it is. And so there's something called the standard. So GS1, HIBIC, and there's a couple different ones. These are the same people that define UPC codes, that define the products, and they give very specific orientation to codes. They have function characters at the beginning that tell you what you're about to read, whether it's a product date, or if it's I think these are actual numbers for it, but date code, lot code, expiration date, we need to know what those are. Because again, maybe if I encoded incorrectly, my manufacture date may be on there, but I don't need an expiration date. But I look at it and I assume that's the expiration date. And now all your product goes unsold because it expired the second it was made based on improper encoding. So all of this can be done within a system. It's all encoded a specific way that you can look at with barcode verification, and you can see the kind of value it comes back with. It's, it enables the full line traceability. It allows real-time symbol assessment. It's not looking at those codes that we saw at the beginning and saying, well, that looks pretty good to me, and then you end up with one that has very bad quiet zone. And then it allows to make sure that it will be scannable, throughout the different processes. And ultimately, if you're only looking to see if something's good, then you are going to fail. It's inevitable. Because we already know there's issues. We already know that problems are going to happen. What verification and what, quality checking in this case, and really looking at it more as a product quality as opposed to a label quality, is we're not going to go all the way down to that damage at the bottom. We'll catch it when it gets to a C. Well, it's still perfectly readable. We can, replace that clogged jet, fix our speeds, fix our feeds so the printing is a little bit better, reevaluate the material we're printing on so that the phone camera can read a little bit easier in that case, and you'll catch it before you ever have a problem. And so this is what ultimately what barcode verification can do for you.